From ancient sightings to modern encounters, the UFO phenomenon has captivated and mystified people for centuries. Join us on a journey through the history of UFO sightings, from the early accounts of Christopher Columbus to the terrifying eyewitness accounts of the Phoenix Lights and the USS Nimitz. Discover the theories and speculations surrounding UFO encounters, explore the mysteries of the universe, and decide for yourself, are we alone in the cosmos, or are we being visited by beings from other worlds? The truth is out there. Let's find it together. The history of UFO phenomena dates back many centuries, with some of the earliest recorded sightings occurring in ancient times. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, the famed Italian explorer, reported seeing strange lights in the sky while sailing near the Caribbean islands. This intriguing encounter has long been the subject of speculation and debate among UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists. According to Columbus' own accounts, he and his crew witnessed a series of glowing balls moving in the sky above them. These lights were unlike anything they had ever seen before, and they appeared to be moving in a manner that was impossible for natural objects to achieve. Columbus and his men were terrified by the sight, and they believed that they were seeing some sort of supernatural phenomenon. Some have speculated that what Columbus and his crew saw were actually extraterrestrial spacecraft. They point to the advanced technology and navigation capabilities of the alien visitors as evidence of their existence. Others believe that the lights were simply a natural phenomenon, possibly caused by atmospheric conditions or some other earthly explanation. Another example of UFO phenomena in history occurred in 1561, when a bright circular object was observed over Nuremberg, Germany. The object was described as being like a large black drum, with a number of smaller objects accompanying it. Eyewitnesses reported that the strange object moved through the sky in a peculiar and erratic manner, unlike any known natural or man-made object. The smaller objects that accompanied the large black drum were also observed to be moving in strange and inexplicable ways. Many people in Nuremberg were terrified by the sight of the strange object, and they believed that it was some sort of supernatural phenomenon. Some even claimed that the object was a sign of the end times, and that it portended great disasters and catastrophes to come. Despite the fear and confusion that the strange object caused, it eventually disappeared from view, leaving behind only a sense of unease and uncertainty. Some people believed that the object had been sent by God as a warning, while others were convinced that it was a sign of something far more sinister and malevolent. The event in Nuremberg was one of the earliest recorded UFO sightings in history, and it remains a fascinating and mysterious episode in the annals of human history. In the centuries that followed, UFO sightings continued to be reported, but they were largely dismissed as hoaxes or misidentifications of known objects. It wasn't until the 20th century that UFO sightings began to be taken seriously, as advances in science and technology made it harder to explain away the reports. One of the first major UFO sightings of the modern era occurred in 1917, when a group of people in Fatima, Portugal, reported seeing a flying saucer hovering in the sky. The incident was widely reported in the press, and it sparked a wave of UFO sightings across Europe and the United States. At first, many people were skeptical of the reports, dismissing them as hoaxes or the result of overactive imaginations. However, as more and more sightings were reported, it became clear that something strange was happening in the skies. The government, under pressure to provide answers, established a commission to investigate the phenomenon. The commission, made up of scientists and experts, spent months studying the reports and conducting interviews with witnesses. They were unable to come up with a definitive explanation for the sightings, and the public was left to wonder what was really happening. As the sightings continued, the media began to pay more attention to them. Newspapers and magazines ran sensational headlines about the UFOs, and television programs devoted entire episodes to investigating the phenomenon. The public was fascinated and alarmed by the sightings, and they became a national obsession. The government, meanwhile, remained tight-lipped about the UFO sightings, fueling speculation and fear among the public. In the years that followed, UFO sightings continued to be reported, and they were often accompanied by strange phenomena such as strange lights, buzzing noises, and even physical effects on the surroundings. Some people reported seeing strange creatures, while others claimed to have been abducted by aliens. Despite the many reports, the existence of UFOs remained a matter of debate. Some people believed that the sightings were genuine encounters with extraterrestrial beings, while others suggested that they were the result of hallucinations or psychological disturbances. As the 20th century rolled forward, UFO activity intensified. One of the most dramatic UFO incidents occurred in 1942, when a group of unidentified flying objects was spotted over the skies of Los Angeles. The incident, known as the Battle of LA, was documented in detail by the military and the media. At the time, the United States was embroiled in World War II, and many people believed that the UFOs were enemy aircraft. The military scrambled to respond, and they launched a massive air raid against the unidentified objects. For several hours, the skies over Los Angeles were filled with the sound of anti-aircraft fire, as the military tried to fend off the mysterious attackers. Despite the intense barrage, the UFOs remained unscathed. They seemed to be immune to the military's weapons, and they continued to hover over the city, causing fear and panic among the population. Eventually, the UFOs disappeared as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving the military and the public with more questions than answers. The government, under pressure to provide answers, conducted an investigation into the incident. However, their findings were inconclusive, and the true nature of the UFOs remains a mystery to this day. Some people believe that they were evidence of extraterrestrial life, while others speculate that they were advanced technology developed by a foreign power. To this point, UFO phenomena was considered little more than a novelty. But the previously obscure history of UFO phenomena was about to take a giant leap into the mainstream. In 1947, a rancher named Mac Brazel discovered strange debris on his property near Roswell, New Mexico. He believed it might be from a crashed airplane, and so he reported the debris to the local sheriff, who alerted the military. The military sent a team to investigate, and they quickly concluded that the debris was from a crashed flying saucer. They cordoned off the area and began collecting the debris, which reportedly included metal scraps, wires, and other strange materials. News of the incident quickly spread, and the military held a press conference in which they announced that they had recovered a crashed flying saucer. However, a few hours later, they issued a revised statement in which they claimed that the debris was actually from a weather balloon. The sudden change in the military story sparked a frenzy of speculation and conspiracy theories. Some people believed that the military was covering up the true nature of the incident, and that the debris was actually from an alien spacecraft. Over the years, the incident has become known as the Roswell UFO incident, and it remains one of the most famous and controversial UFO cases in history. Despite numerous investigations and theories, the true nature of what crashed in Roswell remains a mystery. To this day, the Roswell UFO incident continues to fascinate and intrigue those who are drawn to the mysterious and the unknown. Was it an alien spacecraft that crashed in the New Mexico desert? A top-secret military experiment? Or something else entirely? The truth may never be known, but the legend of the Roswell UFO would live on to influence ufology for decades to come. As the UFO phenomenon continued to unfold, people around the world reported sightings of strange objects in the skies. These sightings were often accompanied by strange lights, bizarre maneuvers, and other inexplicable phenomena. Many of these sightings were documented in detail by the media and the military, fueling speculation and fear among the public. One of the most dramatic UFO incidents occurred in 1952, when a series of sightings was reported over the skies of Washington, D.C. The sightings, which occurred over a period of several weeks, were documented in great detail by the military and the media. They were also investigated by a team of experts who were unable to provide a definitive explanation for what was happening. The Washington, D.C. sightings sparked a wave of UFO activity across the United States, with people reporting sightings in cities and towns across the country. The media covered the sightings extensively, and the public became increasingly fascinated and alarmed by the phenomenon. Some people even claimed that the government was covering up the truth about the UFOs, and conspiracy theories began to circulate. In November of the same year, a UFO was spotted by a commercial airline pilot. As he navigated his plane over the vast expanse of the Grand Canyon, he noticed a strange object in the distance. At first, he thought it was a bird or some other natural phenomenon, but as he drew closer, he realized that it was something completely unlike anything he had ever seen before. The object was circular in shape and was surrounded by a halo of light, giving it an otherworldly appearance. As the pilot watched in amazement, the object remained stationary in the sky for several minutes, as if it was studying the plane and its occupants. Suddenly, the UFO began to move, shooting off at incredible speed and disappearing from sight in the blink of an eye. The pilot was left stunned and shaken by the encounter, and could only wonder at the true nature of the mysterious craft and the beings that piloted it. The incident was reported to authorities and quickly gained national attention, adding to the growing body of evidence for the existence of extraterrestrial life and unidentified flying objects. With an increase in reports from highly credible witnesses, the government began to take things more seriously. In an effort to better understand the UFO phenomena and address the many questions and mysteries surrounding it, the United States Air Force launched Project Blue Book in 1952. The purpose of the top-secret program was to investigate reports of unidentified flying objects, UFOs for short, and to determine whether they posed a threat to national security. Over the course of the program, more than 12,000 sightings were reported and investigated by a team of experts. The program was shrouded in secrecy, and few details were made public at the time. Critics of Project Blue Book have argued that the program was flawed and inadequate. Some have claimed that the Air Force was not truly interested in investigating the sightings, and that the program was simply a way to dismiss and debunk reports of UFO sightings. Others have suggested that the program was a cover for more nefarious activities, such as the development of secret military technology. Whatever the motivation for the creation of Project Blue Book were, there can be no doubt that it helped raise public awareness of UFO phenomena and allowed more stories to be told and documented, such as the Kelso, Washington sightings. In September of 1953, as the citizens of Kelso, Washington went about their daily lives, a strange object appeared in the clear blue sky above them. At first, many of them thought it was a plane or some other familiar sight, but as they watched, it became clear that this was no ordinary aircraft. The object was a silver, disc-shaped craft that hovered effortlessly in the sky, casting a dazzling light in all directions. As people on the ground looked on in amazement, the UFO remained in place for several minutes, as if it was studying the city below. Suddenly, the craft began to move, shooting off at incredible speed and disappearing from sight in the blink of an eye. The witnesses were left stunned and shaken by the encounter, and could only speculate about the true nature of the mysterious craft and the beings that piloted it. The incident was reported to authorities and quickly gained national attention, adding to the growing body of evidence for the existence of flying saucers. While saucers captured the public consciousness, UFO phenomena took on a number of different forms in the 1950s. In January 1955, in South Carolina, a group of Boy Scouts huddled around their campfire. They gazed up at the night sky in awe. The stars twinkled above them, offering a glimpse of the vast expanse of the universe. But suddenly, one of the scouts pointed upwards and cried out in amazement. There in the sky above them was a bright, pulsating light. It moved silently through the night sky, its movements smooth and graceful. The boys watched in amazement as the light seemed to dance amongst the stars, as if it was a living, breathing creature. As they watched, the light suddenly vanished, disappearing from sight in the blink of an eye. The boys were left stunned and amazed, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Was it a UFO? A sign from the gods? A glimpse into another world? It seemed that UFOs came in all shapes and sizes. In May of 1954, a group of witnesses in Farmington, New Mexico, saw a large glowing sphere moving erratically in the sky. It danced amongst the clouds, its movements seemingly random and unpredictable. Then, in a flash of light, it disappeared from sight. In October of 1957, witnesses in Levelland, Texas, saw a large glowing egg-shaped craft. This UFO moved at high speed, leaving a trail of sparks in its wake. But not all reports center on objects in the sky. The Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter is a well-known case of alleged close encounters with extraterrestrial beings. In 1955, near Kelly and Hopkinsville in Christian County, Kentucky, a group of adults and children claimed that small alien creatures from a spaceship were attacking their farmhouse. The group claimed to have held off the aliens with gunfire for several hours, Concerned about the potential for violence, a group of police and military personnel went to the farmhouse to investigate. They found evidence of gunfire, but no sign of the aliens. The incident received widespread media coverage, and ufologists consider it to be one of the most significant and well-documented cases in the history of UFO sightings. Skeptics, however, suggest that the reports were due to the effects of excitement and misidentification of natural phenomena, such as meteors and owls. The United States Air Force classified the incident as a hoax in their Project Blue Book files. Psychologists have used the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter as an example of pseudoscience to help students distinguish truth from fiction. Some theories suggest that the family may have mistaken great horned owls for the aliens due to the birds' yellow eyes and aggressive behavior. Others propose that the family was under the influence of alcohol or drugs, leading to hallucinations and false reports. Another phenomenon that emerged in the 1950s was the mysterious men in black, or MIB. According to ufologists, these men were agents of a secret government organization that was tasked with investigating and covering up UFO sightings and encounters. Some, however, believe that these mysterious men may be another manifestation of otherworldly phenomena. The first reported sighting of the men in black occurred in 1952, when a UFO researcher named Albert Bender claimed to have been visited by three men in dark suits who warned him not to continue his investigations. Over the next few decades, more and more people claimed to have encountered the men in black. They described the men as intimidating and threatening, and they claimed that the men would visit them and try to persuade them to stop their UFO research. The men in black became a popular subject in ufology, and many people believed that they were a real and powerful organization. Some even claimed that the men in black were not human at all, but were actually extraterrestrial beings in disguise. Others believe they are interdimensional beings traveling between parallel universes and dimensions. But one thing is certain: the men in black are not to be trifled with. They are cold, calculating, and utterly ruthless in their pursuit of their mysterious agenda. Their appearance is always the same: tall, gaunt figures, dressed in dark suits and sunglasses. They are said to move with a strange, otherworldly grace, and their eyes seem to burn with an inner fire. Many who have encountered the men in black speak of their otherworldly demeanor, their strange mannerisms and behaviors. They are known to ask for a glass of water, only to pour it over their hands and rub it into their skin. They are rumored to take strange pills on a regular schedule, presumably to help them cope with Earth's atmosphere. But perhaps the most unnerving thing about the men in black is their utter lack of empathy. They seem to care nothing for the lives and well-being of the humans they encounter, treating us like mere insects in their grand cosmic scheme. Some argue that the men in black were a product of mass hysteria and fear, but others insist that they're not only real, but dangerous. Back in the realm of provable science, the 1950s American psyche was primed to expand its limitations and accept new ideas due to a new phenomena capturing the imagination of millions: the space race. As the two superpowers of the United States and the USSR vied for dominance in space, they launched numerous spacecraft and satellites, and carried out a series of successful manned missions. People became more aware of the vastness of space and the potential for life beyond Earth. Ufology, the study of UFO sightings and the UFO phenomenon, also gained popularity during this time, as more and more UFO sightings were reported, and as the media covered these incidents extensively. People became increasingly interested in the topic. The space race also had a significant impact on popular culture, with numerous books, movies, and television shows exploring the idea of extraterrestrial life. This increased public awareness of the topic and further fueled interest in extraterrestrial visitation. The impact of the space race on ufology cannot be overstated. As the United States and the Soviet Union raced to explore the reaches of outer space, the public's interest in extraterrestrial life and the possibility of alien visitation grew. In the 1960s, UFO phenomena were at the height of public interest and fascination. The phenomenon had been gaining attention and recognition in the decades prior, but it was in the 1960s that it truly entered the mainstream consciousness. The media extensively covered UFO sightings and incidents, and the public was captivated by the idea of extraterrestrial life and advanced technology. The socio-political climate of the 1960s also played a role in shaping public perception of UFO phenomena. The Cold War was in full swing, and many people were paranoid about the potential for foreign aggression. As a result, some people interpreted UFO sightings as evidence of foreign powers developing advanced technology. Others believed that the sightings were a sign of impending war or disaster. The culture of the 1960s also added to these feelings. The counterculture movement was in full swing, and many people were open to the idea of exploring new and unconventional ideas. This, combined with the popularity of science fiction and the fascination with space exploration, contributed to the widespread interest in UFO phenomena. The early 1960s saw numerous high-profile UFO sightings and incidents around the world, but few captured the imagination of the public, like the story of Betty and Barney Hill. In September of 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were driving home from a vacation in Canada when they noticed a strange object in the sky. As they watched, the object seemed to move closer and closer to their car, until they could see that it was a spacecraft of some kind. Panicked, they began to drive faster, but the spacecraft matched their speed and continued to follow them. Eventually, the Hills pulled off the road and got out of their car to get a better look at the craft. As they watched, a group of humanoid figures emerged from the spacecraft and began to approach them. The Hills were terrified and tried to run, but they found themselves paralyzed and unable to move. The humanoid figures then took the Hills aboard their spacecraft and subjected them to a series of medical tests and examinations. After what seemed like hours, the Hills were released back onto the road, their memories of the encounter hazy and incomplete. It wasn't until they underwent hypnosis that the full story of their encounter was revealed. The hypnosis sessions uncovered a wealth of detail about the aliens and their spacecraft, as well as the medical procedures that the Hills had been subjected to. In 1962, a series of UFO sightings was reported over the skies of Michigan. The sightings, which occurred over a period of several weeks, were documented in great detail by the military and the media. They were also investigated by a team of experts who were unable to provide a definitive explanation for what was happening. Another well-known UFO incident occurred in 1963, when a group of people in West Virginia reported seeing a flying saucer crash into a mountain. The incident was extensively investigated by the military, who found evidence of a crashed object, but were unable to determine its origin. Some people believe that the object was a UFO, while others think it might have been a secret military experiment gone wrong. In 1964, another hugely famous sighting occurred when a UFO was spotted hovering over the city of Socorro, New Mexico. The UFO was observed by several witnesses, including a police officer and a college student, who described it as a metallic disc with strange markings on it. The early 1960s also saw a number of UFO sightings in the United Kingdom. In 1963, a UFO was spotted hovering over the town of Warminster, England. It was described as a large, glowing object that made a low humming sound. The incident was widely reported in the press, and it sparked a wave of UFO sightings in the area. In 1964, a UFO was spotted over the city of London. Described as a bright, glowing object, it was observed by several witnesses, including a police officer. The incident was widely reported in the media, and it sparked a wave of UFO sightings across the United Kingdom. Back in the US, Middle America was about to experience one of the more enduring UFO incidents on record. On a cold December night in 1965, a large metallic object came crashing down from the sky and landed in the woods near the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. As news of the incident spread, the military was called in to investigate. Witnesses reported seeing the object descend slowly from the sky and said it resembled a flattened cone with hieroglyphic-like symbols on its surface. Some claimed to have seen military personnel removing the object from the woods and loading it onto a flatbed truck. The military searched the area, but were unable to locate the object. Officials from the nearby Air Force Base claimed that the object was a Russian satellite that had burned up upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. However, many people, including some of the witnesses, remained skeptical of this explanation. The incident sparked a flurry of speculation and rumors, with some people claiming that the object was of extraterrestrial origin. Others suggested that it was a U.S. spy balloon or a top-secret military aircraft. Despite numerous investigations and theories, no definitive explanation has been found. In the late 1960s, another story took the public consciousness by storm when the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia was plunged into panic by a mysterious and terrifying creature defined by the local paper as the Mothman. The first sighting of the Mothman occurred on a cold November night in 1966, when two young couples were driving along a deserted road near the town. As they rounded a bend, they saw a strange figure standing by the side of the road. At first, they thought it was a person, but as they got closer, they realized that it was something far more sinister. The creature had the body of a man, but its head was that of a giant moth. Its wings were spread wide, and its glowing red eyes seemed to bore into their souls. The couples were terrified, but they managed to escape the creature and make their way back to town. They reported the incident to the local police, but were met with skepticism and disbelief. Were these witnesses just making up a story to get attention? But the sightings continued. Over the next few weeks, more and more people reported seeing the Mothman, and the creature began to haunt the town. People claimed to have seen it flying over their homes or standing on the edge of the woods, watching them with its eerie red eyes. Some even reported strange and inexplicable events happening in the town, like objects moving on their own or electronic devices malfunctioning. The town of Point Pleasant also experienced a number of UFO sightings during the same time period. Some people even claimed that the Mothman was somehow connected to the UFOs, and that the creature was either an alien in disguise or a supernatural being sent to warn of their presence. These theories added to the already mounting fear and confusion in the town. A team of investigators was sent to Point Pleasant to look into the matter. They interviewed witnesses, collected evidence, and studied the phenomenon in detail. However, they were unable to provide a definitive explanation for the creature or the strange events happening in the town. The sightings of the Mothman continued in various locations around the town. Eventually, a group of local residents formed a search party to try and locate the creature. They were unsuccessful. Eventually, the sightings tapered off, but many residents remained on edge, always looking over their shoulders for any sign of the Mothman. Then, on a fateful day in December 1967, tragedy struck the town. The Silver Bridge, which spanned the Ohio River, connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour. Dozens of cars fell into the river, and 46 people lost their lives in the disaster. Some people believed that the Mothman had somehow caused the collapse of the Silver Bridge, as if it had been a warning of the impending disaster. Others saw the collapse as proof that the creature was not a mere myth, but a real and dangerous entity. The true cause of the Silver Bridge collapse was eventually determined to be a failure in the design of the bridge's suspension chains. However, the legend of the Mothman lived on, and the town of Point Pleasant became forever associated with it. As the 1960s came to a close, the study of unidentified flying objects, or ufology, was gaining more mainstream attention and credibility. The decade had seen a surge in reported UFO sightings, many of which had garnered media attention and sparked public interest in the phenomenon. Project Blue Book continued investigating sightings for the Air Force throughout the 60s, but in 1969 the project was shut down when met with controversy and accusations of cover-ups following the publication of the infamous Condon Report. The Condon Committee, informally known as the University of Colorado UFO Project, was a group funded by the United States Air Force from 1966 to 1968 to study unidentified flying objects at the University of Colorado under the direction of physicist Edward Condon. The group's work, known as the Condon Report, was published in 1968 and concluded that the study of UFOs was unlikely to yield major scientific discoveries. The Condon Committee received mixed reactions from the scientific community and academic journals. Critics of the report argued that it was not objective and that it did not adequately address the UFO phenomenon. Some members of the committee also expressed concern about the way the report was conducted and the conclusions that were reached. One major criticism of the Condon Report was the memo written by committee member Leonard Gross in August 1966, in which he reassured University of Colorado administrators that the committee's study would demonstrate that UFO observations had no basis in reality. This memo was seen as clear evidence of a bias against the UFO phenomenon and led to accusations that the committee's work was not objective. The Condon Report has been cited as a decisive factor in the generally low level of interest in UFO activity among academics since its publication. Despite its controversial conclusions, the report remains a key document in the study of UFOs and continues to be referenced by researchers in the field. But this report did little to deter the interests of UFO researchers. As the interest in ufology grew, so did the number of organizations dedicated to studying the phenomenon. Groups like the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, and the Center for UFO Studies, or CUFOS, were founded in the late 1960s. They continue to investigate and collect evidence to this day. Still, many experts, following the findings of the Condon Report, dismissed UFO sightings as misidentifications of natural phenomena or hoaxes, and the lack of concrete evidence made it difficult for ufologists to gain widespread acceptance for their theories. And so the end of the 1960s marked a turning point for ufology. While the phenomenon continued to capture the public's imagination, it remained shrouded in mystery and controversy, with no definitive answers in sight. The 1970s, a time of great political and social upheaval, with movements for civil rights, women's rights, and gay rights gaining traction, and significant events such as the Vietnam War and the Watergate scandal making headlines. In this context, it is not surprising that the UFO phenomenon and the associated field of ufology also experienced significant developments and changes. The rise of the conspiracy theory movement in the 1970s, fueled in part by widespread distrust of the government and institutions, led to an increase in interest in UFO sightings and encounters. This, combined with the proliferation of media coverage of UFO-related events, helped to solidify the idea of a government cover-up of the truth about extraterrestrial visitation. One of the key figures in the UFO conspiracy theory movement was Stanton Friedman, a nuclear physicist and UFO researcher who popularized the idea of a government cover-up. Friedman, who began investigating UFO sightings in the 1950s, was a frequent guest on television and radio shows, where he discussed his beliefs about extraterrestrial visitation and the government's role in hiding the truth. Another influential figure was ufologist and author Jacques Vallée, who wrote several books on the subject, including Passport to Magonia and The Invisible College. Vallée's work was notable for its focus on the psychological and cultural aspects of the UFO phenomenon, and he was a vocal critic of the idea of a government cover-up. The proliferation of media coverage of UFO-related events also played a role in the growth of the UFO conspiracy theory movement. In particular, the 1976 NBC television movie, The UFO Incident, which depicted the real-life story of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, was a major hit and helped to further popularize the idea of alien visitation. Despite the efforts of Friedman, Vallée, and others, the majority of the scientific community continued to dismiss the idea of a government cover-up and maintained that most UFO sightings could be explained by natural phenomena or human error. However, the continued interest in and fascination with the UFO phenomenon among the general public helped to keep the conspiracy theories alive. Add to this the 1970s fascination with magic and the occult, and even UFO stories began to get weirder, as evidenced by the Marley Woods UFO incident. On the evening of November 26, 1971, several people in the small village of Marley Woods reported seeing a strange object hovering in the sky. According to witnesses, the object landed on the ground near the village and remained there for several hours. Local residents claimed to have seen strange figures moving around the area, and some reported hearing strange noises and seeing flashes of light. The apparent connection between the 1971 Marley Woods UFO incident and the occult has added an additional layer of intrigue and mystery to the already mysterious event. The area around Marley Woods was known for its association with strange phenomena and legends of supernatural beings, and many people believed that the UFO sighting was related to these legends. Some have suggested that the object observed in Marley Woods was actually a manifestation of otherworldly forces, summoned by occult practices or rituals. Others have speculated that the UFO was connected to a secret cult operating in the area, and that the strange figures observed at the crash site were members of the cult. There have even been reports of strange symbols and markings being found at the crash site, leading some to believe that the UFO incident was part of a larger, sinister plot involving the occult. Regardless of the truth behind these stories, the occult connection adds an eerie and fascinating element to the already mysterious incident. it also raises questions about the true nature of the UFO phenomenon. After the Betty and Barney Hill incident of 1961, the idea of alien abductions became part of the UFO narrative, as illustrated by the Pascagoula abduction case. On the evening of October 11, 1973, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were fishing near Pascagoula, Mississippi, when they heard a whirring sound and saw two flashing blue lights. They then observed an oval-shaped object, 30-40 feet in diameter and 8-10 feet high. Hickson and Parker claimed they were paralyzed, while three creatures with robotic slit mouths and crab-like pincers took them aboard the object and examined them. The two men were left shaken by their experience and reported it to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Hickson gave interviews and lectures and claimed additional encounters with aliens. Parker attended UFO conventions and started a company called UFO Investigations to produce TV stories about UFOs. However, their claims were met with skepticism and accusations of hoaxing. Aviation journalist and UFO skeptic Philip J. Klass found discrepancies in Hickson's story and concluded that the case was a hoax. Skeptical investigator Joe Nickell wrote that Hickson's behavior was questionable and that he later altered or embellished his claims. Nickell speculated that Hickson may have fantasized the alien encounter during a hypnagogic waking dream state. Despite the skepticism, the Pascagoula abduction continues to captivate the public imagination. The idea of being paralyzed and examined by strange creatures is both eerie and frightening. It's hard not to wonder if Hickson and Parker's claims were true, or if they were simply trying to get attention. Either way, the Pascagoula abduction remains one of the most well-known UFO sightings and alien abduction cases in history. Now UFOs were not just appearing, but kidnapping unsuspecting citizens. They were becoming, it seemed, more brazen every year, as evidenced by the 1975 UFO landing in Cayey, Mexico. On the evening of August 25th, several people in the small town of Cayey reported seeing a strange object hovering in the sky. The object was described as being oval-shaped and emitting a bright light. As the object descended, it reportedly landed on the ground near the town and remained there for several hours. Local residents claimed to have seen strange figures moving around the area, and some reported hearing strange noises and seeing flashes of light. The Mexican government launched an investigation into the incident, and officials reportedly found evidence of burn marks on the ground and other strange phenomena. The incident caused tensions between Mexico and the United States, as some people in Mexico believed that the UFO was a secret American military project. As 1976 rolled around, things were about to get a whole lot more intense. Throughout this year, numerous UFO sightings were reported across the country, with some of the most notable incidents occurring in the southwestern United States. Between the months of February and April 1976, an overwhelming number of UFO sightings were reported in states including Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. The sightings were characterized by the presence of large, triangular-shaped objects hovering in the sky. These objects were observed by multiple witnesses and were often seen at close range, with some reports even describing the objects as landing on the ground. The sightings gained significant attention from the media and the public, with many people becoming convinced that the objects were extraterrestrial in origin. Some witnesses reported seeing strange figures near the UFO sightings, leading to speculation about possible alien encounters. Outside the US, UFO phenomena was heating up as well. On the evening of September 19, 1976, several strange objects were observed in the skies over Tehran, the capital of Iran. The objects were seen by multiple witnesses, including a commercial pilot and military personnel, and were described as having a red, pulsating light and moving erratically. At the time, Iran was in the midst of a revolutionary uprising, and political tensions were high. The incident caused widespread panic, and the Iranian Air Force was scrambled to investigate. However, the objects reportedly outmaneuvered the military jets and disappeared into the night sky. The Iranian government launched an investigation into the incident, and several officials, including the Minister of Defense, claimed that the objects were of unknown origin. The incident had a significant impact on Iranian-American relations, as some people in Iran believed that the United States was behind the UFO sightings. With so many sightings involving military forces, another apparent connection began to come into focus with a particularly disturbing 1976 encounter at Loring Air Force Base in Maine. The connection between UFOs and nuclear weapons. On the evening of October 27, 1976, several strange objects were observed in the skies over the base. According to witnesses, the objects were seen hovering near the base's nuclear weapons storage area and were observed by security personnel and military personnel. The UFO reportedly moved the missiles without touching them, causing alarm among the military personnel who witnessed the event. Some witnesses claimed that the objects were able to defy the laws of physics and were able to move at incredible speeds. The United States Air Force launched an investigation into the incident, and officials reportedly found evidence of radar anomalies and other strange phenomena. The incident caused tensions between the United States and other countries, as some people believed that the UFO sightings were a threat to national security. There are many theories about the UFO's intentions in this encounter. Some believe that the UFO was trying to communicate with the military personnel or send them a warning about the dangers of nuclear weapons. Others speculate that the UFO was trying to steal the missiles or disable them in order to prevent a potential nuclear war. In one popular theory, the UFO was from an advanced civilization that was trying to prevent humanity from destroying itself with its own weapons. According to this theory, the UFO was able to manipulate the missiles using its advanced technology, showing the military personnel that their weapons were no match for the UFO's power. However advanced these alien spacecraft were, it seems they were still susceptible to mishaps and crashes, whether caused by mechanical failure or military hostility. On the evening of March 25, 1976, a strange object was observed crashing near the town of Aztec, New Mexico. According to witnesses, the object crashed on a remote ranch and was observed by several people. Some witnesses claimed that they saw strange figures moving around the crash site, and some reported hearing strange noises and seeing flashes of light. The United States government launched an investigation into the incident and reportedly found evidence of the crash and subsequent cover-up. Some people believe that the government attempted to hide the true nature of the object and the events that occurred at the crash site. From the 1973 Pascagoula abduction to the 1976 Tehran UFO incident and the 1976 UFO sightings over Loring Air Force Base in Maine, UFOs in the 1970s were big news. The media covered these incidents extensively, with news outlets reporting on the sightings, conducting interviews with witnesses, and speculating on the possible explanations for the phenomena. This coverage helped to fuel public interest in UFO sightings and the UFO phenomenon, and many people became convinced that extraterrestrial life was visiting Earth. At the same time, the media also played a role in shaping the public's perceptions of the validity of UFO sightings. Some news outlets, particularly those with a skeptical stance, questioned the credibility of witnesses and suggested that UFO sightings were likely hoaxes or misidentified natural phenomena. This coverage helped to fuel skepticism and doubt about the reality of UFO sightings. Still, media coverage ensured that the public became increasingly fascinated with the idea of extraterrestrial life, and this fascination led to the growth of a dedicated subculture of UFO enthusiasts and believers who were eager to learn more about the phenomena and to share their own experiences with others. The subculture was characterized by a focus on UFO sightings, alien encounters, and conspiracy theories about the government's involvement in UFO incidents. At the same time, the growth of the UFO subculture also led to the rise of UFO-related tourism. Some people began traveling to locations where UFO sightings had been reported, in hopes of seeing a UFO for themselves or of experiencing an alien encounter. This trend was particularly prominent in the southwestern United States, where numerous UFO sightings had been reported in the 1970s. Some people even set up camps and facilities near UFO hotspots, offering accommodation and amenities for UFO tourists. By the end of the 1970s, ufology was at a pivotal point. The decade had seen a surge in UFO sightings, an explosion in popular interest in the topic, and the growth of a dedicated subculture of UFO enthusiasts and believers. However, the 1980s and 1990s would bring new challenges and changes for the field. One of the major challenges facing ufology in the 1980s was the rise of skepticism and criticism. As more and more people began to question the validity of UFO sightings and the existence of extraterrestrial life, ufology faced increasing skepticism from the scientific community and the general public. This skepticism was fueled in part by the failure of some high-profile UFO sightings to be adequately explained, as well as by the revelation of hoaxes and false claims. As a result, many people began to view ufology as a fringe belief and a source of ridicule, rather than a legitimate area of study. Despite these challenges, the 1980s and 1990s also saw the continued growth of the UFO subculture. UFO enthusiasts and believers continued to organize and network, sharing their experiences and theories with one another, and seeking out new evidence of extraterrestrial life. As MUFON and NICAP, two key UFO research organizations, continued to grow in these decades, they were fueled by a number of truly remarkable UFO incidents. In 1980, one of the most heavily documented UFO events in history occurred near RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk, England, the Rendlesham Forest Incident. The events of the incident began on the night of December 26th, when strange lights were spotted in the forest by U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge. Several military personnel, including Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, went to investigate the lights and observed a strange triangular-shaped craft hovering in the forest. The craft reportedly emitted a bright light and made strange noises before moving through the forest and disappearing. Over the next few days, similar sightings were reported by military personnel and local residents, causing widespread confusion and concern. Lieutenant Colonel Holt, who was deeply disturbed by the events, recorded a tape-recorded account of the incident, which was later released to the public. In the recording, Holt can be heard describing the strange lights and craft that he and others had observed. The Rendlesham Forest UFO incident was unique in that it involved multiple witnesses from the military, who provided detailed and credible accounts of the events. Later in the decade, in 1989 and 1990, a series of UFO sightings occurred in Belgium that would become known as the Belgium UFO flap. These sightings were unusual for their frequency, duration, and the fact that they were observed by multiple witnesses, including police officers and military personnel. The first sightings occurred in November 1989, when a group of teenage boys spotted a large triangular-shaped craft hovering over a field near the town of Eupen. The craft was described as having 3 bright lights on each corner and a red light in the center. Over the next few weeks, similar sightings were reported by witnesses in other parts of Belgium. On the night of December 29th, a large group of witnesses, including several police officers, observed a triangular-shaped craft flying over the town of Glans. The craft was described as being very large and emitting a low humming noise. The Belgian Air Force became involved in the investigation and conducted a number of patrols in search of the mysterious craft. On the night of March 30th, 1990, 2 F-16 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept a UFO that was seen flying over the city of Brussels. The pilots reported that the craft was able to outmaneuver them and disappear at high speed. Perhaps the most widely publicized UFO event of this 20-year period, however, occurred on the night of March 13, 1997. On that night, thousands of witnesses in Arizona and Nevada reported seeing a massive triangular-shaped craft moving slowly through the sky. The craft was described as being larger than a football field and was estimated to be several hundred feet wide. The sightings were reported by witnesses from all walks of life, including pilots, law enforcement officers, and military personnel. Some witnesses reported seeing a series of bright lights on the underside of the craft, while others reported seeing a single, solid object. The craft was observed moving slowly and silently through the sky, and was seen by witnesses in several different locations over a period of several hours. The incident became known as the Phoenix Lights and quickly garnered national media attention. Many UFO enthusiasts and researchers believed that the Phoenix Lights represented definitive proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life. After the Phoenix Lights incident, several explanations were offered for the strange craft that was observed. One of the most widely accepted explanations was that the lights were actually flares that had been dropped by military aircraft as part of a training exercise. However, many witnesses and UFO researchers dismissed this explanation, citing several reasons. One of the main reasons was that the craft observed during the Phoenix Lights incident did not behave like flares. Flares are typically dropped from aircraft and fall to the ground, while the Phoenix Lights were observed moving slowly and silently through the sky. Another reason that the flare explanation was considered unlikely was the sheer size of the craft. The Phoenix Lights were described as being larger than a football field, which would make them much larger than any known flare. In addition, the fact that the Phoenix Lights were observed by multiple witnesses in different locations over a period of several hours also made it difficult to accept the flare explanation. The idea that military aircraft would be dropping flares in the same area for such a long period of time seemed unlikely. The Phoenix Lights incident received widespread media attention and was thoroughly documented by UFO researcher organizations. In addition, several videos and photographs of the Phoenix Lights were taken by witnesses and shared online. These images and videos helped to further spread the story of the Phoenix Lights and added to the mystique surrounding the incident. The incident also gained significant attention on the newly blossoming internet, as people began to share their stories and theories about the Phoenix Lights online. As a result, the incident became a widely discussed topic among UFO enthusiasts and researchers, and helped to raise awareness of the phenomenon. The growing internet also gave rise to a new generation of UFO researchers who used online resources to investigate UFO sightings and to promote their theories. These researchers were able to connect with one another and share information and ideas more easily than ever before. One of the main ways in which the internet facilitated UFO research was through the creation of online forums and message boards. These platforms allowed UFO enthusiasts to discuss their theories and share information about UFO sightings and encounters. In addition, many UFO researchers used the internet to create their own websites, where they could publish their findings and theories for a wider audience. The internet also made it easier for UFO researchers to access and analyze data related to UFO sightings. Many UFO sightings are reported to government agencies, such as the National UFO Reporting Center. In the past, accessing this information required physically visiting the agency and requesting the data. With the advent of the internet, however, this information became much more accessible, allowing UFO researchers to quickly and easily access and analyze data on UFO sightings. In addition to facilitating research, the internet also allowed UFO researchers to more easily promote their theories and findings to a wider audience. In the past, UFO researchers had to rely on traditional forms of media, such as television and print, to get their ideas out to the public. However, with the rise of the internet, UFO researchers were able to use online platforms to reach a much larger audience and to generate more interest in their theories. One of the most notable examples of this is the UFO disclosure movement, which emerged in the 1990s and gained traction thanks to the internet. This movement, which is made up of a group of UFO researchers and enthusiasts, champions the disclosure of information about UFOs and extraterrestrial life by governments around the world. The internet played a crucial role in the growth of the movement, as it allowed supporters to connect with one another, share information, and organize events and campaigns. At the same time, UFO research was also slowly gaining a tiny foothold in the halls of academia. Ufologists and researchers such as John Mack and David Jacobs conducted extensive investigations into the UFO phenomena and published their findings. John Mack, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author and professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, studied the psychological effects of UFO encounters on a large number of individuals. He interviewed over 100 UFO experiencers and found that many of them had similar psychological and emotional responses to their encounters, such as feelings of awe, fear, and confusion. Mack concluded that these experiences were real and had a profound impact on the individuals who had them. David Jacobs, a professor of history at Temple University, focused his research on UFO abduction cases. He conducted in-depth interviews with over 100 individuals who claimed to have been abducted by aliens and studied their accounts in detail. Jacobs found that many of the abduction experiences had similar elements, such as being taken on board a UFO, undergoing medical procedures, and receiving messages from the aliens. He also discovered that many of the experiencers had physical evidence of their encounters, such as scars or other abnormalities. Both Mack and Jacobs published their findings in books that became popular among UFO enthusiasts and researchers. Mack's book, Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens, detailed his findings on the psychological effects of UFO encounters and argued that the experiences were real and worthy of further study. Jacobs' book, The Threat, focused on the potential dangers of alien abduction and the need for humans to be prepared for potential encounters with extraterrestrial beings. In addition to their research, Mack and Jacobs also spoke extensively about their findings in lectures and interviews. They often appeared on television and radio shows to discuss their work and share their insights with the public. As a result, their research and findings became well known among UFO enthusiasts and researchers, and their work helped to increase public interest in the UFO phenomena. Despite their credentials and quality research, John Mack and David Jacobs were met with skepticism and ridicule from the mainstream scientific community. Many of their colleagues dismissed their work as unscientific and irrational, and they were frequently criticized for their unorthodox methods and conclusions. The two men faced an uphill battle as they tried to convince the scientific community of the validity of their research. They were ridiculed and mocked at conferences and in the media, and their findings were often dismissed out of hand by their peers. Despite this hostility, Mack and Jacobs remained steadfast in their pursuit of the truth. They continued to conduct their research, and their efforts eventually began to attract attention from outside the scientific community. As their work gained more recognition, the skepticism and ridicule from their colleagues grew even stronger. Some even went so far as to try to discredit them personally, attacking their character and professionalism in an effort to undermine their credibility. Despite the backlash, Mack and Jacobs never wavered in their commitment to the truth. Eventually, their perseverance paid off, and their work began to gain more acceptance within the scientific community. They may never have achieved the mainstream recognition and acceptance they deserved, but their dedication and determination to uncover the truth was an inspiration to all who knew them. Unfortunately, not all UFO research was as carefully researched and presented. As the public's interest in UFOs and aliens grew, so too did the number of fringe and extreme UFO conspiracy theories. Some examples of such conspiracy theories include the belief that the government was working with aliens to create a super race of human-alien hybrids, and that they were using secret underground bases to conduct experiments on unwilling subjects. Another theory claimed that the government had made a deal with the aliens to trade human captives for advanced technology, and that they were using this technology to create advanced weapons and gain a military advantage over other nations. Some even believed that the government was working with the aliens to create a secret space program, and that they were using this program to explore the universe and establish colonies on other planets. These theories were often fueled by fear and paranoia, and they were spread rapidly by the rise of the internet and the ease with which information could be shared. Many people became convinced that the government was lying to them, and that there was a vast conspiracy to keep the truth about aliens hidden. Despite the lack of evidence to support these theories, many people continued to believe in them, and they dedicated their lives to uncovering the truth. Some began to take drastic measures to try and force UFO disclosure. They broke into government facilities and stole classified documents, and even resorted to violence. The mainstream media often covered these fringe theories and the people who believed in them, further fueling the public's interest and paranoia. Some even claimed that the government was using the media to control the narrative and keep the truth about aliens hidden. Eventually, these fringe theories and the people who believed in them became a source of ridicule and embarrassment to the UFO research community. Many people dismissed them as paranoid and delusional, and their extreme beliefs damaged the credibility of UFO research as a whole. But true believers would always have a safe haven where their theories were confirmed and justified: the realm of pop culture. In the beginning of the 1980s, the public attitude toward UFOs and aliens was one of skepticism and disbelief. Many people saw these topics as the stuff of science fiction, and they were considered taboo or fringe subjects. However, this all changed with the release of blockbuster movies like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. These films depicted aliens in a sympathetic light, and they sparked a renewed interest in the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Suddenly, people were talking openly about UFOs and aliens, and the once fringe topic became mainstream. In the 90s, the popular TV show The X-Files followed two FBI agents, Mulder and Scully, as they investigated cases involving the paranormal, the supernatural, and extraterrestrial life. As the show gained popularity, it had a profound impact on the public consciousness and sparked a renewed interest in the possibility of life beyond Earth. The X-Files also spawned a huge fan base, and many people became obsessed with the show and its mythology. By the end of the decade, the once skeptical public had become more open-minded and accepting of the possibility of alien life. The events of the decade had forever changed the way people thought about the universe and the possibilities it held. Nowhere is this shift in public consciousness more apparent than in its attitude toward UFO abductions. The idea of alien abduction first gained widespread attention in the 1960s with the publication of the book, The Interrupted Journey, which detailed the alleged abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. But it was in the 1980s and 1990s that the phenomenon truly gained traction. During this time period, more and more people began to come forward with stories of their own alleged abductions. They described being taken aboard alien spacecraft and subjected to medical experiments and other forms of torture. These stories captured the public's imagination, and the phenomenon of alien abduction became a hot topic of conversation. The media covered these stories extensively, and the public's fascination with the topic grew. As the number of alleged abduction cases increased, a number of researchers and psychologists began to study the phenomenon. Some argued that these experiences were real, while others suggested that they were the result of psychological trauma or other factors. One of the most dramatic examples of abduction is the Travis Walton abduction case, as detailed in the book, Fire in the Sky. In 1975, Walton was a 22-year-old logger working in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona when he and his co-workers claimed to have witnessed a UFO. According to their accounts, the UFO landed near their truck, and Walton stepped out to investigate. The other loggers claimed that they then saw a beam of light strike Walton, and he was lifted into the air and carried into the UFO. The loggers fled in terror, and they reported the incident to the authorities. A search party was organized, but no trace of Walton was found. For 5 days, the search continued, and many believed that Walton was dead. However, on the 6th day, Walton reappeared. He claimed that he had been taken aboard the UFO and subjected to medical experiments and other forms of torture. He also claimed that he had been shown visions of the future and of other planets. The loggers' accounts of the incident were investigated by the authorities, and they were subjected to polygraph tests. The tests indicated that they were telling the truth, and their accounts were considered to be credible. When the book Fire in the Sky was released in 1978, it sparked a renewed interest in the phenomenon of alien abduction. The book's popularity was followed by the release of a movie adaptation in 1993. Starring D.B. Sweeney as Walton, the film was a box office hit, and it helped to bring the topic of alien abduction even further into the mainstream consciousness. The release of Fire in the Sky and the movie adaptation of the book helped to change the way people thought about the phenomenon of alien abduction. Being kidnapped by aliens, once a sure sign of mental illness, began to seem plausible. By the end of the 1990s, the public consciousness was primed to believe in UFOs and aliens, and the focus of ufology would shift toward not just proving that aliens are visiting Earth, but making direct contact with these entities and forcing governments to tell us the truth through disclosure. In the 2000s, the idea of aliens and extraterrestrial life finally began to be taken seriously by the mainstream media and government officials due to the efforts of thousands of ufologists with the disclosure movement. At the forefront of the disclosure movement were a number of prominent figures and organizations, including former government officials and high-ranking military personnel who came forward with their own experiences and sightings of UFOs and other strange phenomena. Among the most notable of these was former United States Air Force pilot and UFO researcher, Captain Robert Salas, who claimed to have witnessed a UFO disabling nuclear missiles at a Montana Air Force base in the 1960s. Another key figure in the disclosure movement was former Pentagon official Luis Elizondo, who headed up the Pentagon's secret UFO program, known as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, from 2010 to 2017. Elizondo claimed that this agency had gathered substantial evidence of extraterrestrial life, and that the government was withholding this information from the public. The disclosure movement also saw the formation of organizations dedicated to investigating and researching UFO sightings and alien encounters. One of the most prominent of these was the Mutual UFO Network, which was founded in 1969 and is now the largest UFO investigative organization in the world. MUFON and other groups like it were instrumental in bringing attention to UFO sightings and encounters, and in pushing for greater transparency from the government on the subject. As the disclosure movement gained momentum, it sparked a national conversation on the existence of aliens and extraterrestrial life. The mainstream media began to cover the subject more extensively, and with more sympathy to UFO experiencers, and government officials were forced to address the growing body of evidence and testimony supporting the idea that aliens were real. Disclosure took a major step forward when the New York Times published a blockbuster article on the Pentagon's mysterious UFO program. The article, entitled "Glowing Auras and Black Money: The Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program," detailed the government's secret efforts to investigate reports of unidentified flying objects. According to the article, the program was run by a shadowy group of military officials and scientists who worked in secrecy to uncover the truth about these strange sightings. They poured millions of dollars into research and development, building advanced technologies and conducting classified experiments. As the story unfolded, it became clear that the program had made some stunning discoveries. They had collected evidence of glowing auras and other mysterious phenomena, and had even managed to capture and study some of the objects themselves. The article sent shockwaves through the UFO community and sparked a frenzy of speculation and debate. Some hailed it as a major breakthrough, while others were skeptical of the claims. But no matter what people thought, one thing was clear: the Pentagon's UFO program had been exposed, and the veil of secrecy was beginning to lift. The government even went so far as to confirm the validity of a video showing a UFO encounter involving a military aircraft carrier. In 2004, the USS Nimitz was conducting routine training exercises off the coast of California when something unexpected occurred. A group of fighter pilots spotted an unknown object hovering in the sky, and they were quickly scrambled to investigate. As they approached, they were amazed to see a strange tic-tac-shaped object with no visible means of propulsion. It seemed to effortlessly outmaneuver their fighter jets, accelerating and changing direction in ways that seemed impossible. The pilots were stunned by what they were seeing, and they reported the encounter to their superiors. The incident was quickly hushed up, and the pilots were instructed not to speak about it to anyone. But word of the encounter soon leaked out, and it became the subject of intense speculation and debate. Many people believed that the pilots had encountered a UFO, and the story quickly took on a life of its own. A video of the encounter leaked showing the pilots chasing the UFO, trying to get a closer look. This video circulated the internet for years, generating a huge amount of buzz and speculation. Some people thought it was a hoax, while others were convinced it was real. But the government remained silent, refusing to comment on the matter. Then, out of nowhere, the government confirmed the authenticity of the video and admitted that the encounter had indeed taken place. It was a shocking revelation, and one that sent shockwaves through the UFO community. Now the question on everyone's minds was, what was the object that the pilots had seen? Was it a secret military technology, or was it something even more mysterious and alien? But UFO researchers seized on one important fact. The government was now finally willing to admit that there were things in the sky that couldn't be explained. To some UFO experts, however, this admission by the government wasn't enough, and they were determined to take the issue of disclosure into their own hands. It was up to the people, they said, to uncover the truth. One of these experts was a man named Dr. Stephen Greer, who had spent decades studying UFOs and the paranormal. He believed that the key to disclosure was a revolutionary new protocol called CE5, which stood for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. The CE5 protocol was a bold and ambitious plan, one that would allow ordinary people to make contact with extraterrestrial beings. It involved using advanced meditation and communication techniques to send a powerful message into the cosmos, inviting extraterrestrial beings to make contact with us. Greer and his team of UFO experts spent years perfecting the CE5 protocol, and they finally reached a point where they were ready to put it into action. They organized a series of events where people from all over the world would gather together and use the CE5 protocol to send their message into the stars. The events were a huge success. Many people reported having incredible experiences, and some even claimed to have made contact with extraterrestrial beings. It was a major step forward for the UFO community, and it showed that ordinary people had the power to make disclosure happen. The CE5 protocol had opened the door to a new era of communication and exploration, and the possibilities were truly limitless. Some UFO enthusiasts even went as far as blending elements of ufology with the New Age movement, by positing such theories as the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis and the starseed theory. The ultra-terrestrial hypothesis is a controversial and little-known idea that seeks to explain the UFO phenomena in a new and intriguing way. According to this theory, the strange objects and beings that are often seen in UFO sightings are not from other planets or dimensions, but are actually from our own world, hidden from human sight and understanding. The ultra-terrestrial theory proposes that these ultra-terrestrial beings have been living on Earth for thousands of years, perhaps even since the dawn of humanity. They are said to possess advanced technology and knowledge, far beyond what we currently understand, and are able to manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. Some proponents of the ultra-terrestrial theory believe that these beings have been interacting with humans throughout history, influencing our development and shaping our beliefs and cultures. They argue that many of the gods and creatures of ancient mythology were actually encounters with these ultra-terrestrial beings, and that they have been manipulating human events and decisions for their own purposes. Many UFO sightings can be explained by the ultra-terrestrial theory, as the strange objects and beings observed in these encounters are said to be the work of these hidden entities. Some even believe that the governments of the world are aware of the existence of these ultra-terrestrial beings and are actively trying to cover up their presence and activities. The ultra-terrestrial theory has sparked intense debate and controversy among UFO researchers and enthusiasts. Some argue that the theory is too far-fetched and lacks any concrete evidence, while others believe that it offers a compelling and fascinating explanation for the UFO phenomena. The ultra-terrestrial theory also allows ufologists to connect previously separate elements of the paranormal. For example, according to the ultra-terrestrial theory, Bigfoot, also known as the Sasquatch, is not a legend or a hoax, but is a real and mysterious creature that is hidden from human sight. Bigfoot, an ultra-terrestrial, is one of many advanced and secretive entities that have been living on Earth for thousands of years. The ultra-terrestrial theory suggests that Bigfoot is a being of immense power and knowledge, far beyond what we currently understand. It is said to possess advanced technology and abilities that allow it to manipulate reality and move through the world without being seen. Some even believe that Bigfoot has the ability to control the minds and thoughts of humans, using its powers to remain hidden and undetected. Many Bigfoot sightings and encounters can be explained by the ultra-terrestrial theory. The strange and inexplicable behaviors of the creature, as well as its ability to seemingly disappear and reappear at will, are said to be the result of its ultra-terrestrial abilities. Some believe that Bigfoot uses these abilities to interact with humans, either to study us or to manipulate our beliefs and actions for its own purposes. The ultra-terrestrial theory of Bigfoot also sheds new light on the many myths and legends surrounding the creature. It suggests that these stories are not mere folklore, but are actually based on encounters with the real Bigfoot, an ultra-terrestrial being that has been influencing human history and culture for thousands of years. While the ultra-terrestrial theory of Bigfoot is a controversial and unproven idea, it offers a fascinating and intriguing explanation for the many mysteries surrounding the creature. Whether or not Bigfoot is truly an ultra-terrestrial being, the thought of such a powerful and secretive entity living among us is both intriguing and frightening. Even more controversial is the starseed theory, a revolutionary concept that has taken the UFO community by storm. This theory, which was first proposed by a group of pioneering UFO researchers, claims that many of us are not from Earth, but are actually starseeds, beings who were born on other planets, and who have come to Earth to help humanity awaken to its true potential. The starseed theory is based on the idea that we are all connected, and that we all have a cosmic purpose. According to this theory, the universe is teeming with life, and many of these beings have evolved to a higher level of consciousness than we have. These beings, who are known as starseeds, have been sent to Earth to help us awaken to our true nature and to guide us towards a brighter future. The implications of the starseed theory are truly mind-blowing. If it is true, it would mean that we are not alone in the universe, and that there are other beings out there who are watching over us and guiding us on our journey. It would also mean that we have a greater purpose in the universe, and that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves. Perhaps the most controversial theory in ufology is the ancient aliens theory, which claims that extraterrestrial beings have been visiting Earth for thousands of years and have had a profound influence on the development of human civilization. This theory, which has been popularized by books, TV shows, and websites, is based on the idea that many of the mysterious artifacts, structures, and texts from ancient cultures can be explained by the presence of aliens. The ancient aliens theory has generated a lot of debate and controversy, and it has been criticized by many people for being xenophobic and offensive to ancient cultures. Critics argue that it is a form of cultural imperialism, and that it reduces the achievements of ancient peoples to the work of alien beings. Despite these criticisms, the ancient aliens theory continues to be popular, and it has spawned a large and dedicated following. Some people believe that it is the key to unlocking the mysteries of our past, and that it holds the key to understanding our place in the universe. Today, UFO theories are widely varied. Some believe in a whole range of alien visitors, including the tall whites, grays, reptilians, and many others. Others believe in the ultra-terrestrial theory, while still others subscribe to the nuts and bolts theory, which suggests that UFO sightings are of advanced human technology that is being developed in secret by governments, militaries, or private organizations. Despite these different theories, there is one thing that all UFO researchers agree on. The UFO phenomenon is real, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Whether the sightings are of aliens, ultra-terrestrials, or secret human technology, there is no denying that there is something strange and mysterious happening in our skies. The search for the truth continues, and as more and more people join the hunt, we may finally be able to unlock the secrets of the universe. Until then, the mystery remains, and the truth is out there, waiting to be discovered.